Well, it's unsurprising that among his loyal fan base, a criminal conviction doesn't seem to have put them off Donald Trump. But what is perhaps more unexpected is that support for America's new felon is on the rise here too. So what's drawing Aussies to Donald Trump?
President Trump, you're the man, bro. It is a damn travesty what they're doing to you.
Donald Trump in the warm embrace of his most loyal fans. Just 48 hours after he'd been found guilty of fraud and election obstruction. Perhaps more surprising, though, is the number of loyal fans Trump has here, with new figures showing nearly 1 in 3 Aussies says they want Trump to win the US presidential election in November.
I think he's doing good things.
We welcome Donald Trump because every day have something new or something different.
He goes off the rail occasionally, but no better and worse than anyone else is going to be up there.
That polling done before Trump became a convicted felon, but after his 4 prosecutions and 2 impeachments, one for inciting an insurrection.
That was a rigged election. We're going to the Capitol and we fight. We fight like hell.
Support for Trump in Australia has been steadily climbing, from 11% in 2016 to 23% in 2020, jumping to 29% today.
This is a contest between Trump and Biden, and Biden is a far less desirable candidate than he was 4 years ago.
Australia's faith in President Biden slipping 13 points to 46%, a new low.
Younger Australians see a President Biden who is a lot older and who has presided over a period that has been economically quite difficult for young people all over the world.
Australia's trust in the US as a whole has also dropped from a peak of 65% in 2022 to 56%.
They're both of similar vintage, and I would love to see a much younger, steadier hand in control of the largest power in the world.
A lot of Australians look at the US and think, can't a country this big and this powerful do much better than this? 2 very old candidates, one of whom is now a convicted felon. Just seeing that is one of the things that reduces Australians' trust in American politics.
So as the future of our closest ally hangs in the balance, what would a Trump win mean for Aussies and for Australia?
I'd probably prefer someone a little bit younger. Unfortunately, it's a 2-horse race and we've got to deal with that.
Either Trump or someone younger who's going to give their country a go.
Right, well, former BBC Washington correspondent, who now calls Sydney home, Nick Bryant, has been tracking US elections for decades. Hey, Nick, why do you think support for Trump is on the rise in Australia?
Donald Trump and right-wing populism is a global phenomenon, and his grievance brand of politics resonates internationally. You know, if you're not happy with the way the economy is going, well, you're probably going to like some of what Trump has to say. If you don't like your country is becoming more multicultural, if you're worried about immigration and border protection, again, Trump is your man. And if you want to poke the cultural elites in the eye, if you think that your country is becoming too woke, whatever that means, again, Trump's your guy. So he's the ultimate protest candidate. You can project onto Trump pretty much whatever you want to project. And I think that explains a lot of his international appeal.
Do you think that, given he's becoming more popular here, if you say were to win the next election, his style of politics would affect how we do politics over here?
Oh, I think you're already seeing how his style of politics affects politics here. When I came from America to Australia, I was put up for 2 weeks at a quarantine hotel. The first Saturday morning, I heard this massive roar from the streets down below in Sydney's CBD. It was anti-lockdown protesters. They were all carrying Trump posters. You've seen it in Melbourne. They paraded a gallows through the streets of Melbourne. They urinated on the Shrine of Remembrance, your most sacred building. That, in many ways, was mimicking the behaviour of Trump supporters, the insurrectionists, on January the 6th. I remember at that time, Donald Trump Jr., who was a part of this onslaught against Australia's lockdown laws, put out a tweet saying, "Don't Australia America." And I remember thinking at the time, quite the opposite. Don't America Australia.
What would you see a Trump victory having as an impact on Australia?
Well, internationally, it's going to be dramatic, I think. I mean, he might let Vladimir Putin win in Ukraine. And if Putin wins in Ukraine, then the Chinese would be more belligerent, perhaps, towards Taiwan. And you could be in the midst of a kind of regional conflagrations. I mean, Australia sort of likes to think of itself as kind of immune from a lot of the things that happen in the world, but it isn't. I mean, Trump could rip up AUKUS. It's a great deal for America, it has to be said, but Trump often regards any deal that wasn't negotiated by Donald Trump as, by definition, a bad deal. So that could be a problem.
How do you reckon Trump and Albo, if he's still there, will get on?
Well, one of the tragedies of the Trump years was watching people who would ordinarily criticise Donald Trump have to be so sycophantic and sort of kiss his ring. And you can imagine that Albo would be absolutely biting his tongue in some ways when he met Donald Trump. The fact that Albanese has such a good relationship with Joe Biden might count against him himself. Trump tends to punish those who've had close relationships with people he doesn't like. But I think Albanese should adopt the Malcolm Turnbull playbook. Turnbull, to his eternal credit, stood up to him. He's one of the few international leaders to do it. I think he'd learnt from working for Kerry Packer over the years or something, but that really helped him, and that is maybe what Albanese could do. But if you want the AUKUS deal to remain intact, it's a really hard thing for an Australian Prime Minister to do, to go up against the US President.
Well, Nick's new book, The Forever War, America's Unending Conflict with Itself, is out tomorrow. Sounds perfectly timed. Nick, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.